Welcome everybody, it's good to see you all this week. As always, we'll go through some housekeeping items before we do anything else. The biggest housekeeping item I have is that meetups are back underway now. They got put on hold for a little bit, so our next meetup will be June 24th. Nick Hughes is going to be giving a talk about item. We're going to take July 1st off because it's the week of a holiday here in the US, and so a lot of people won't be available. And then July 8th and 15th, Gareth is going to give a talk. And then after that, we'll probably do a meetup that'll talk about some of the newer features in Sodium. I did have somebody else from the community message me today saying they would like to speak at an upcoming meetup. I'm going to go ahead and get that scheduled as well. And that is an invitation that's open to anybody as far as the meetups go. The plan is to have 3 to 4 meetups a month scheduled out. And those will be published a few weeks in advance, and they'll be included in those weekly what's happening with SALT messages that I'm putting out now on Mondays. And also kind of on a communication related note, I know there's been a lot of chatter this week about communication channels, about making sure everybody gets the information that they need. As of right now, we know that the bulk of our user base is on Slack, IRC, and the Google group, so any major announcements about releases as well as open hour agendas and what's happening posts will make it across all 3 of those channels. They're also posted on the Community Wiki, so that gives us a place where, for instance, IRC doesn't lend itself as well to formatted messages, and so that gives us a link where we can share that out. The Community Wiki is something that's really just kind of evolved and taken off here in the last few weeks. It started out as a place where open hour notes would live. Then we started adding the release notes and the release timeline. And one day a few weeks ago, I realized that we should probably change the labels of some of the open hour notes so people knew what they were seeing. I created a page that's for an about the open hour. That what's happening page will continue to be updated, and that's going to be a bit of a landing page for us for now. The one plan had been to use the community.saltstack.com site as a landing page. That's still in progress as far as how those 2 things tie together, but we will be adding a link on the community page to the wiki so that people who visit the community page can find the wiki. So that's everything. I know that does lead to some redundancy in communications if you're on both Slack and the Google group / mailing list. I get those redundant communications as well. I think at this point it's better to over communicate and make sure we're reaching our 3 kind of main communities, our main audiences, rather than miss somebody. And so for redundancy, if you're looking for like only, for instance, security related updates, you can go ahead and there's like security RSS feed that you can subscribe to about that. But a lot of the stuff on the Google group that's going to come from me is going to be just announcements and updates. So that's the plan for now. I'm sure it will continue evolving, but that's where we are communicating, and that applies to, like I said, releases, events, the what's happening things, the open hour agendas. And with that, I think it's time to talk. Well, does anybody have anything to add about communication channels or platforms? No? All right, and I'm going to throw a link to the Community Wiki up for everybody, just so you have that.
Gotcha. It's on the chat.
Oh, yep, thanks.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to drop it in Twitch because I have Twitch up and running, and I'm watching chats in both Twitch and Zoom to answer people's questions. Next up, we have SEPs. The first SEP is the unsupported release SEP that has been merged, if I'm not mistaken. Good to go on that. The other SEP, SEP number 18, about release label improvements, that is something that we had planned on closing, and then based on a lot of feedback, we're actually reconfiguring that, reworking that. I know y'all could see in the comments there's been some conversation there about confusion on everything from how that SEP is labeled to kind of distinguishing the difference between releases and priorities. And so that's something that we're still working through. So there will be a new SEP coming out this week. Sage, I don't know if you have anything more that you want to add about that.
Probably not a new one coming out, but definitely drafting this week, and hope to have it out by next week for people to make comments on. That will dive into some deeper questions that the original SEP about labels wasn't necessarily intended to address. It was a pretty narrow scope. And this one's going to be broader, and hope to address a lot of what the comments from the community definitely brought about, and are things that we want to address about what is the release cycle? How do I know when my PR, my issue, or both that are tied together will be merged and will be released, and will I know that in a timely manner? And then more deeper definitions about labels in general, not just the labels that have to do with issues, but and severity, not necessarily release labels, but severity, and as well as others. And then also looking towards some comments where we talked about the use of milestones, and how that process will work going forward.
Anybody have comments about either of the steps at this time? All right, well, we are keeping an eye on all the chatter that's going on about it, so there we go. All right, from here, that's kind of a lot of the internal stuff. One of the things that we've been trying to do is have a feedback item of the week, or highlighting some of the work the different work groups are doing. We had documentation come up last month, I believe it was, and talk about some of the things they're doing. This week, Nick Hughes is going to talk about what the Cloud Working Group has been working on lately, and just kind of, we hear a lot about the working groups, but not everybody knows what the working groups are working on, how to get involved, how they can contribute. And so the goal of this is to give people an idea of other ways that you can maybe contribute. So with that, I'll pass it off to you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so in the Cloud Working Group, what we've been predominantly working on is ITEM, which is one of the sort of next generation open source platforms that were announced last fall. So, you know, as part of the working group, we're really focusing on cloud providers as the first foray into getting ITEM plugins out there into the world. So for those who might not be entirely up to date on what's going on there, Thomas Hatch came up with a programming paradigm, which he's calling plugin-oriented programming, or POP. And there was a number of applications that were released in this paradigm, and one of which is ITEM, I-D-E-M, which is sort of like the stateful enforcement and execution module functionality that you would find in SALT today, but sort of separated out as its own little thing. And what that allows us to do is to write plugins that are in separate repositories that can be iterated at their own speed, that contain all of the cloud functionality that that we would like to have in order to enforce those types of resources against cloud infrastructure, and also really any API at all. So if anybody is interested in contributing to those projects, really, you know, you don't even have to know that much about cloud. You can treat it as a learning experience, right? You know, if you want to get involved and see what it's about, we have our monthly meetings. I believe the next one's coming up next week, I believe. And you know, just show up and see if there's anything that you can pitch in on. We have some fairly mature functionality with Microsoft Azure, but that's still growing. So if you're an Azure guy, you know, definitely contribute to that project. Tyler's been great about banging out some smaller cloud projects as proof of concepts and sort of a guide on how to do this going forward, and that's been great. And we're looking to tackle the big boy AWS here coming up, and so hopefully you'll be hearing more about that as we go forward. So that's really all I had as far as an update. If there's any questions on how specifically you could get involved, or any quick questions on ITEM itself, I'll be happy to field them. But we all are also doing a meetup, as Cassandra said, on the 24th of June, and that would be a great time to get more information and also ask a bunch of questions as well.
Yeah, and we do have time on the agenda today for open conversation around pretty much all of the agenda items. So if you think of something now or later, feel free to post it or speak up, and we can have a conversation. All right. Well, thank you, Nick. In that case, let's move on to the release candidate status and updates. Sage and Froda are going to be covering that for us, and I'll let you two take it away.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, as we had targeted, we had our release candidate go out. Cassandra was awesome and made sure all those announcements went out. We had a lot of coverage there, I think, in announcements. So if people feel like they haven't heard that, which internally I heard today that was the case, we would love to know, and we'd love to know where you expected to see that so that we can get that communication out to you guys. We are rapidly testing that internally and finding issues and putting them back onto the sodium board, project board, and asking people to label those in the title through brackets that say RC sodium so that we can take a look at this pretty quickly, and having our person that's on triage each week to alert us if something comes through that's critical. And so we hope that people are testing that and getting that out there. And want to see what issues are coming about so we can get them fixed. We do have a number of issues that we're working on currently, and I can paste the link to the board. And Frude, I don't know if you have any other updates.
No, I do not. I think you covered it well. Thanks. I just also want to say thank you for people who have installed it and helping us testing it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. That's all I've got, unless people have questions.
Nope. And we are on track for the release to be on time. We're still in the code-free state, and we'll have the release here in June 17th or 18th. Is what we're targeting. All right. Well, the next up we have, I think, mostly Wayne, if he's on. Yes, talking about Python 3 test coverage. I know that's been quite a topic of conversation. Python 3 and the Py2 deprecation as well. I'm imagining will come up. But for right now, Wayne, you want to tell us a little bit about what we're looking for in the Py3 coverage?
Yeah, sure. So it's been pointed out in the community Slack, especially, that there's some issues that they just didn't have test coverage, and they hadn't been used by people running Python 3. And we know that we have kind of a opportunity for improvement in our test coverage, a huge opportunity, which is to say we really need more test coverage. So there are places where we just don't have test coverage. As a matter of fact, this morning in the test clinic, I went into the Opsgenie module or state to write some tests for that, and there are just no tests for it at all. 0 tests. So there was an outstanding PR that needed some test cases, so we went ahead and started writing those tests. But that's kind of indicative of some of the larger problems, is when there's just no tests, there's really no way to tell, if Python removes a feature, if an underlying library removes a feature, if an API removes a feature, we just can't detect it until somebody tries out that code in the wild and then exposes that issue. Obviously, we don't want that. We would love to have the tests covering it, which is why we've started requiring tests on pull requests. But we know that we've got some blind spots here. And so the best way to uncover these blind spots is to actually test, get the RC and test it in your environment. Make a lab environment that looks like your production environment, or if you don't already have one, and then run salt under Python 3 the way you would normally run salt. And the more people that we can get to do that, the more corners of salt we can uncover that don't have test cases and do have bugs. So that's what we're really looking for. I really need is your help to actually test salt to make sure that it works. Because if we can get those bugs in, bug reports in now, then we've got a good chance to get those fixed either if they're serious enough before the sodium release, or you know, if not, then certainly by the point release that we plan on doing. We'll probably ship about a month after. So that's really what our ask is please test the RC, even if it's just something small. You know, the more we can test, the better, because you know we've all got limited resources. But if you can help out there and test that RC, then that'll be a huge help, and will go a long ways towards making sure that the sodium release is stable. So yeah, I guess back to you.
And you,
I may have missed it.
You have a blog post coming out about this?
Yeah, so there is a blog post coming out soon that'll be pretty much just what I discussed here, but be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, with some details. Point people. Yeah, go ahead.
And in
Cassandra.
case anybody missed it, where would they go to find out specifically what aspects might need tested?
Everything.
Everything. All right, good answer.
Yeah,
Fun to make sure.
and really the biggest thing is that, you know, our test environment, the unit tests and the test integration tests that we have, that we're officially testing, we have about 40% test coverage right now, somewhere between 30 and 40%. So obviously that's not great. You know, it's something we're aware of and it's something we're improving and working on every day. But despite our you know, desires, we can't just snap our finger and fix that issue. So it's a process we're slowly building that coverage. So in the interim, the best way to actually know, hey, are there any bugs in this release, is to try it out and you know, run it with your same states and modules that you would normally run, and that will uncover any issues that we don't have tests for, that we're not already aware of, and then as we fix those, we'll add those tests so that we don't have regressions in the future.
Thanks, Wayne. And how much longer are you going to be doing the Twitch stream testing for this particular release? Is that up through the end?
Yeah, at this point, test clinics will probably be are indefinite. I don't have any like planned stop date. When we have better than 90% test coverage, I guess, I don't know. You know, it's you know, so I'm basically just writing a lot of tests, and if you have you know, if you're confused about, okay, how do I even test this? How do I write tests? I've never written tests before. I've never written tests in SALT. I don't know what that process looks like. Absolutely hit me up on IRC or in the community Slack. And more than happy to take whatever PR that you've got or whatever you're working on, and you know, help write tests, give you pointers, you know, kind of explain, okay, this is how we write these tests. Whatever I can do to help out there, absolutely more than willing. And you know, I mean, tests are a good thing, but you know, so but if you just don't know, but you still do want to write tests, absolutely do bring that up, and we can work on that in the Twitch stream, and I can just, you know, either help improve tests that you've already got, or if you're just not sure where to start, I can also help out with that too. So.
Cool, thank you. And at this point, that covers our formal agenda. what questions does everybody have right now in light of the release, in light of the RC being out? Is there anything in particular that stuck out to anybody? And if so, this is a great place to talk about it. All right, are there particular SALT-related questions that anybody has, or community-related questions? Comments, suggestions, topic requests? Awesome meetup speakers you've seen in the past?
I could just briefly, I just want to address the backlog of PRs that the team is trying to work through right now. I've gotten pings on a number of PRs on which I interacted or issues I interacted for pull requests that just have been sitting, many for over a year, and it seems like it seems like we're moving a little bit too quickly as a project to demand quick action in rebasing them onto master, or reopening them or what have you. I'd like to just make a request for a little bit more patience in that regard.
So a PR that's been open for some time that's not pointing to master.
Yeah, I mean
specifically. Yeah, mostly
yeah,
it's about communication there, not about.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly we're just trying to get communication out to try to say, hey, just by the way, this is pointing to develop, which we're not doing anymore. So, hey.
Well, I guess I'm speaking specifically to when the person who created the pull request is told that the pull request is going to be closed due to it being abandoned. Because maybe they haven't responded within a couple of days or a week or whatever. Meanwhile, they've been waiting like over a year, maybe a year and a half, maybe more, for literally any attention to the pull request. I just want to caution that's not the best way of handling things. I know
opinions are like noses. We all got one.
I know there's a big backlog, and I know there's a lot of things to tick off, but.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for most of the pull requests, we are giving a week's notice. We are saying, please rebase this against master. Let us know if you need help. Otherwise, we're going to close it, because as you said, we do have a large backlog of PRs. And if someone has been monitoring it and watching it, then they will see those notifications. So, I mean, if there are any in particular that you see, that you hear about, please point them at us and let us know, and we'll revisit it. But like I said, we are giving a week's notice of asking someone to rebase against master before closing any PRs.
Just to, I guess, add a bit more flavor there too, is, closing a PR, it's not final. If somebody is, if somebody's not interested in working on something, either for a certain amount of time, or somebody else decides, hey, I want to come back and pick this up, all you've got to do is just reach out and say, hey, I left this alone for a while. I'm ready to come back and take care of this. So it's not about, nobody put any effort into it, so we don't want this submission at all. This is garbage. We're definitely not trying to do that, but it's just about making sure that we don't have a lot of noise, because that's one of the biggest challenges. When you look at it, it's like, okay, well, where do after this 1,000 open PRs, what do I need to focus on? And when there's no response for like a month or a week even, then it's really hard, because you have to go back and spend time just kind of shepherding these PRs that aren't really getting much attention. So if
No,
we
imagine how the community member who submitted the code feels when they didn't get any response for over a year. I'm just trying to make that point.
For sure, and that is a frustrating thing. I mean, I submitted an issue like 5 years ago, I think, and then it was closed 4 years later, I think, without ever getting fixed, or at least clearly getting fixed, anyways. So I definitely understand that frustration. It is like, well, what in the world? But that's what we're trying to address is that, because what'll happen is instead of being able to focus on your PR or your issues, instead all my time is spent checking these other PRs that nobody's touched in a month. And it's like, okay, well, if I get rid of these, then I don't have to think about them because nobody's interested in taking care of those. And now I can actually focus on the people who are interested, who are active. Because that's where we really want to be focusing, is on the people who are really contributing to the project versus people who just kind of once in the night drive by, throw something out the window and say, okay, just do what you want with it.
I think that assessment of it is pretty telling. If that's what you think of those type of contributions, if they don't get back within a certain period of time. But, look, I said what I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, thanks.
I think you might be misinterpreting our stance here, Eric. I don't think we're not saying that these pull requests are not valued, but there are a lot of pull requests that need to go into the code base, and we simply do not have the resources to make sure that they are rebased against the right branch. We don't have the resources to keep after everyone and make sure that they are shepherding their PRs into the code base. And so we have said, we're not going through blanketly like deleting pull requests and saying like, no, we don't want this, or you didn't pay attention to it. What we're saying is we're giving people a heads up, and this is not something new. Like with the switch to the master branch has been something that has been talked about and announced and discussed for several months now. And so we are saying, please rebase your pull request against master, and then we will merge it in, providing it has tests, providing it needs tests. And if we don't hear a response back, we assume that person is no longer interested in getting that pull request in. And we feel a week's notice is sufficient time to have that person see that notification and let us know, hey, yeah, I'm working on this. And it's not like if someone doesn't get the pull request put in a week's time or rebase in a week's time, that it'll be automatically closed. As long as we get some sort of acknowledgement back, I'm working on this, then we will leave it open. And just to give like additional context here, I've had several of my pull requests closed because they weren't rebased against the master branch, and I didn't get them in time. And so I went back and I opened a new pull request, and then they got merged. So it's not a blanket. We don't value the pull requests that the community is putting in. We absolutely do value them.
We do. Did I close them?
No, I think it was DWAS that did it.
Oh.
I don't remember, to be honest. I think that wording and messaging matters, and the comments that I've seen, they just say that they're going to be closed. They will be closed, or they have been closed because they've been abandoned. And that if the sentiment is hey, we'd like to get this in, once you have time to get back to it, please comment on this or open a new PR. I'm not getting that sentiment from the comments I'm seeing. So that there's some.
Well, I will admit, I tend to not write comments in PRs that are dissertation long. So I prefer something that's pretty short, and that may be coming across as abrupt, and I'll take that feedback. I'll take it. That's fair.
Yeah, I would say like our takeaway here is that we need to make sure that our message on those is a little more, maybe a little less robotic, a little more kind of friendly. I mean, chances are it's going to be the same message across multiple PRs just because there are a lot to go through. But we can definitely take that feedback and make sure that the messaging on those PRs is a little more.
Yeah, no harm with copying and pasting in like a, something. I certainly don't want to add a whole bunch of typing, extra typing to the workflow. But
yeah, even adding something, would it help if we added something along the lines of, let us know if you're still interested in working on this PR, if you don't want it to be closed or something like that, and make it more explicit that just because review a week doesn't mean it's actually closing at the end of the week.
yeah, or like even if they end up closing it, like if you'd like to revisit this, we'd be happy to work with you or something like that. I just don't. It just is. I just think about it from the perspective of somebody who put in a contribution and maybe is dealing with a global pandemic right now and isn't like jumping back to go and rebase code that they wrote 16 months ago.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
There's a whole bunch of things that could be contributing to why somebody isn't getting back within a certain period of time, and they may see that and think that okay, well, they're just closing it and whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, they can be reopened.
Yeah,
I understand.
Closing it is certainly not deleting it. Somebody comes back later due to circumstances. Of course, we want to hear from them, and we would reopen. So,
yeah.
Or
even if
that's known.
I think we should make sure that when we are closing those PRs, that we've got a good positive message to say, we are just, this close is not permanent. Like, we're just closing this to keep things clean. Absolutely. If you're interested in, picking this up, ping us, and we're happy to reopen this and get this merged in.
Yeah, and even in that initial, this thing is closing message, to say,
Yeah.
I don't know, invite that, hey, I don't have capacity right now, because it's perfectly reasonable. Like Eric said, we're dealing with the pandemic and everything else. It's perfectly reasonable to say, hey, I don't have capacity to deal with this right now for whatever myriad reasons. I'm still interested in working on it. Let's keep it open a little longer, and we can always just maybe tag that or mark that so that we know that it's not actually been ignored. It's just right now isn't the time.
Yeah, just in terms of the messaging, I just think that could be improved. I think it might come off as a bit too, even if the intention is isn't that it's final. I think when the first communication that one gets after more than a year is, hey, we're going to close this. If you don't get this rebased, then that can be seen as.
I don't think that was.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a direct quote.
I don't think that's what I don't think that's what you meant, but.
It's not a direct quote. I think that almost all of mine said, hey, can you rebase this against master? It might be looking like this is abandoned. Can you give us an update? It's a lot of questions. It's not, hey, we're closing this.
No, that's not what I'm trying to, to accuse. I'm just saying the way, if the first communication someone gets and that amount of time says that if you don't, we might have to close it as abandoned. I mean, I could see how that would really tick someone off if they've been waiting, that long for action.
Well, just so people are aware, this is business. It's not personal. So I don't mean to offend people, but I will, and I know I will. And sorry. I hope that we can be friends. I hope we can all get along. I'll take the feedback. I got it. And thanks.
All right. Additional feedback or topics, questions? I mean, we're definitely always open to everybody's feedback, and acting on as much as we realistically can throughout this whole process. And as we work to kind of build this community and grow it and help people collaborate a little bit better, that's one of the main goals of my role, actually, is just to take a lot of this feedback and kind of absorb it and prioritize and decide what things are impacting a lot of people's ability to contribute or to get their questions answered or to get their things submitted and merged. So always feel free to reach out to me with any of that stuff, and we can talk it through and implement some of the changes, whether it's a messaging change, whether it's changing up a link, additional pages to the wiki. All that sort of stuff is this is kind of the very first iteration of this whole program, and so definitely want to make sure it's working for everybody.
Yeah, Cassandra, I'd just like to echo what you're saying, that feedback is always welcome, even if it's critical.
Yep.
We're, a community. We're kind of like a family working on SALT, and there's always going to be times where people disagree, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have the conversation.
And it could just be a simple mistake. I mean, for instance, today I copy pasted the Zoom announcement and dropped the wrong URL, and it's just, we're people, and I was glad somebody pointed that out. It was a quick thing I could fix, and I, don't take that kind of thing personally. So, all right, we do have a question. No, we have a piece of feedback from Twitch. It says, if a PR has been waiting for over a month and it's already taken too long to progress one way or another.
I'm sorry, Cassandra, could you repeat that?
Yeah, it was a comment. If a PR has been waiting for over a month and it's already taken too long to progress one way or another.
Progress as in what aspect of it?
That was going to be my follow-up question.
Like the tests aren't passing, it needs tests and it doesn't have tests.
Hasn't been acknowledged. I'm not
Right.
sure what the. All right, I just asked the person to elaborate. Okay, the comment is more that someone uploading a PR and waiting for a month for a response will perhaps give up and not come back to it. So is the response that you're looking for more of just an acknowledgement that the PR was received, or an update as to what we're going to do with the PR next? What would be viewed as a appropriate response or helpful response?
Yeah, we should be reviewing them. If not, then someone is dropping the ball on our side. So our intent is to within a few days of, like a day or two of a pull request getting open, that someone looks at it and acknowledges it.
And the acknowledgement will go back to the contributor, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just either a comment on the PR or an actual review, but just something to say, hey, kind of the end goal. We're definitely not there yet, but our goal is to get down to where within a business day that we've got some type of acknowledgement saying, hey, thanks for the PR. We'll look at this, review it either today or sometime this week, and then get a review certainly within a week. That's the goal. We're definitely not there yet. We're working. Part of the problem that we have is GitHub is really, really noisy. And it notifies you of every tiny little thing. And it's really difficult to get the granular notifications that you want. Like, oh yeah, this is exactly the things that I need to do and I need to address today or this week. It's really difficult to get that configured with a project of this size on GitHub. after a year of working at it, I'm still not there. There's still things that I know that I'm missing. And I still just get way too much noise. As a matter of fact, I recently just set my GitHub notifications to ignoring, and manually creating a list of things that I need to manually follow up with, because the GitHub notifications are useless to me. So that's kind of an extreme example, but it's, that's where I am today. So that's a really big hurdle for us to get to that point, is actually get the correct notifications to being able to actually see, okay, today I need to look at these 5 PRs or these 10 or these 2, whatever it is that we need to do, and just see the signal through the noise. That's what's.
I will say that GitHub notifications are a lot more helpful than they were in the past, and they basically have incorporated a lot of, if anybody has used Octobox in the past, they incorporated pretty much all of those features into it. You can create your own filters. You can mark issues or PRs as saved, although there doesn't appear to be anything like any classification beyond saving, so you can't tell what reason you saved it for. But there's my personal approach is to filter all email and pretty much never look at it, and use the GitHub notifications page, and that's been a big help.
Nice.
I was just going to ask.
I
mean, that brings up a good point. It'd be really interesting to hear, especially from some of our contributors. Do you have best practices or ways that you manage that influx of notifications? It's something that I'm trying to deal with as well as I try to keep an eye on more SEPs and things. I'd love to hear how everybody else handles it. It's good to know about the filters, Eric.
If you go to github.com/notifications, on the left bar, there's the filters that has a bunch of pre-made filters already, and like a little gear icon that you could use to create your own. I don't know if it's the, I don't know, like it doesn't, let's see, when you create new filters, it doesn't really give you the full, like a full explanation of the query, whether it's the same as the issue filtering, if you can use all those same things. It looks like if under filter notifications, on that little filter notifications bar near the top of the page, looks like you can filter by repository, and then you can use is. So like I guess is anything that works with the is lookups, like is PR or is issue or whatever, and then reason, and then the reasons are all the different reasons that are currently used by the filters. So it'd be nice if they had a better explanation of the little mini query language. But yeah, you could create your own custom filters based on that, and I would hope maybe also add additional text, I think, to those. So you could I don't know if you could filter on labels or anything like that either, which would be nice. But
it looks like if you click on the reason, then it gives you like a bunch of different options for the reason and some other things too. So that's super handy. So we'll have to look into this and see if this will solve our issues around notification overwhelm. But it does look like there's quite a few options there.
Yeah, this reminds me of back in the day when, so I was a recruiter once upon a time, and I gave talks on like managing social media and managing a professional network and all this stuff. And there was a constant complaint about LinkedIn and the bombardment of messages, which LinkedIn isn't my favorite, for the record. But it's a pain to configure notifications on things like Meetup and LinkedIn, and it definitely takes some time. But I feel like it's one of those things that if you take time to set up those filters and those notifications that work for you, it's worth it in the long run. But it's tedious administrative stuff.
Yeah, I just posted this in the chat, but it looks like you can also share the filters once you do whatever filter you want, and just like
Nice.
when you're searching. So if you find something that works really well for you, you can share it around and say, hey, just use this for getting your notifications. So nice. That's super awesome. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be great for like pet projects or maybe working groups. So Today we learned.
If I can find more information on the query language, like a link or something like that, I'll post it in the develop channel.
And now we have a handful of more minutes if anybody has any final words, tips for using GitHub. I know filtered in, is it noise to filter ratio, whatever, it's a lot. There's a lot of noise coming in between social media, between notifications for work, and between Slack and everything else. So it's, the management of that is always something that it evolves, and then keep working on it over time. All right, well, I guess that's it for this week. Definitely keep an eye out Monday for the announcement of what else happening next week. Submit open hour topics. The productivity tips talk about GitHub was a fun little surprise, or a fun little, I guess, extra topic, extra conversation. And anybody else have anything to add right now? All right, we'll keep an eye out for Wayne's blog post as well for more information on Pi 3, and we will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.